Welcome. We are in chapter 14 of Mark. So actually we are very close to our end because Mark only has 16 chapters, right? Double check. Thought so. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So Mark only has 16 chapters. So we're going to be finishing up pretty soon. But today we're only going to do the first part of Mark 14 because there is a lot of good info. Again, I know I just told you guys off camera that I'm trying to not have so much information in here, but some of this stuff, God is just so cool and he has so many amazing details. It's hard to make myself how do we call it, pare down. Yeah, pare down. So I'm going to be sipping hot tea on camera. Sorry. It's terribly rude, but my throat is killing me. I'm not feeling bad. I know it's just allergies, but I think the best description of how I feel today is like a busted can of refrigerator biscuits. I think that's how I feel. Like, even the zipper on my jeans feels a little tight. I just feel like a busted can of biscuits. All right, probably look like it too.
That's cute.
But I thought about it, I was like, that's exactly how I feel. Like, I'm not all put together, and I feel like I'm all just kind of, anyway. But God is good. All right, so we'll do some prayer requests later. Online folk and class folk if you want to. And we have people coming in. Come in. No worries. Don't fall down, though. Oh, Zutalor. So don't fall down. Come. Good to see you guys. We are online, but they can't see you. Anyway, I'm going to start a group thread for our online folk, and if you guys want to join, and it's going to be in the group that group me, so I don't have to worry about Apple and Androids not liking each other, okay? But I thought it would be a good place that if someone had a question or a prayer request or praise, and that way our online folk can connect to us as well. And this will be totally optional. You don't have to join the group thread, okay? And then also, if you had suggestions of what to study or an insight from your own personal Bible study that you'd like to share, just something that helps us connect with one another. And I mean, but none of us are going to be spamming it, so I think we're safe. But anyway, I thought it'd be neat to have a way for the online folk to more quickly send us prayer requests or questions or their comments so we can have them. As of this moment, we don't have any online folk, but I'm going to keep talking. I was just telling them we should be finishing up Mark pretty soon. And then we're going to have to take we have some forced breaks we have to take because we have Harvest Festival coming up, we have Missions Conference, and I have a trip I need to go on. I need to go bye-bye on. So, we are in 14. We're going to, let me read verses 1 through 11, and then we're going to stop. Okie dokie. And again, oh, Teresa, you got it? You falling all apart like me? I was just telling them, Jessica, that I don't feel my best because of allergies. I'm not sick, but I feel like a busted can of biscuits. You know, just like this and every, you know. Okay, but let me take a little sip of tea before I read.
Where are you going on your trip?
I'm going to go to Abilene, Texas. So, Abilene, Texas, that's my hometown. Well, it is my hometown, but I also consider San Angelo where my dad lives, which is only 90 miles away. And I'm going to be seeing my dad too. But anyway, so we're in chapter 14 of the Bible, obviously. Okay, the King James Bible, the Holy Bible. We're in the Bible, not any other book. And this is, okay, I'm excited because there are some things that most Bible studies don't talk about in chapter 14. This is where I like using dudes for commentary because they come up with stuff. Women are really good at Bible study and commentary, but they kind of go more on the emotional sometimes, and the men do the history and stuff, and I like the history. Don't slam me. I'm not making stereotypical comments. I'm just making generalizations, which is the same thing. But anyway, okay. Verse 1. After 2 days was the feast of the Passover, and of unleavened bread, and the chief priests and scribes sought how they might take him by craft and put him to death. But they said, not on the feast day, lest there be an uproar of the people. And being in Bethany, in the house of Simon the leper, as he sat at meat, there came a woman, having an alabaster box of ointment of spikenard, very precious. And she brake the box, and poured it on his head. And there were some that had indignation within themselves, and said, why was this waste of the ointment made? For it might have been sold for more than 300 pence, and have been given to the poor. And they murmured against her. And Jesus said, let her alone. Why trouble ye her? She hath wrought a good work on me. For ye have the poor with you always, and whensoever ye will, ye may do them good. But me ye have not always. He's trying to tell them. She hath done what she could. She is come aforehand to anoint my body to the burying. Verily I say unto you, wheresoever this gospel shall be preached throughout the whole world, this also that she hath done shall be spoken of for a memorial of her. That's so cool. Anyway, and Judas Iscariot, one of the 12, went unto the chief priests to betray him unto them. And when they heard it, they were glad, and promised to give him money. And he sought how he might conveniently betray him. All right, we're going to have pronoun treble because we are not using antecedents. So let's go back. So in verse 7, it says, and when they heard it, that would be the chief priests, because Judas is coming to him like, okay, I'm going to help you out. I'm going to help you out. I'm done. All right? We're going to learn there's a lot more to Judas that is not covered in this account, but there are in the other gospel accounts. And it says, and he sought how he might conveniently betray him. Of course, that is Judas. Okay, so much to talk about here. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Let me be like a YouTuber. Or a podcaster. There's just so much to unpack here. And I'm like, what? We're not unpacking anything. Okay, whatever. So they feared an uproar of the people. The chief priests, they're done with this guy. In their mind, they're like, and they're done. But now remember, if you're a chief scribe, you're very educated. So you're no dumb cookie. You're pretty smart. And they know the crowd really likes them. So if we did something to him right now, and mind you, their plan was never to just merely arrest him. Their goal was to put him to death. And Lazarus too. Did you know that? Anyway, so scholars, I wanted to know, because they said there could be an uproar of people. That means obviously Jesus was really well loved by the crowd. And we always see the angry crowds portrayed in the movies and things, but really when we do get to that point, you're going to see that was set up. Most of the crowd loved Jesus. Okay, that's one of the misconceptions. In our films we have hot Jesus with Jessica is always.
I hate hot Jesus.
I know I don't like hot Jesus either. Jesus with hair down to here, that would not have happened. Jesus with raggedy hems, that's one of my favorite dislikes. The Hebrews were meticulous and immaculate. They would not have been walking around with like that, especially not Jesus. So anyway, one thing is, because they can't show the crucifixion scene like it really would have been, or it would be like a XXX. I mean, it would be so violent they would have trouble with rating it. Even the Passion of the Christ from years past with Mel Gibson's direction, that was pretty brutal. And even then, makeup can only do so much. Now we have we could do computer effects, but it would just be so horrific. Who would you show it to? So that also tells me, one, people loved him so much, they went and they were willing to be near him at the crucifixion, even though that had been a horrible, horrible thing to see. And most women were not really like, hey, let's go look at something violent. And yet the women are some of the ones that stayed through with him. Mind you, you're also going to see this woman that came and did the, broke the box and anointed his head. That's Mary. It doesn't tell us in Mark, okay? But which Mary? We've got about a bajillion, okay? So it's Mary, Lazarus' sister. And you're like, but Julia, how do you know that? And I'll say, good question. Here's how we know. Let's go to John chapter 11, verse 12. In the gospel, John chapter 11. While you're doing that, I need to take another sip of this tea to try to... Oh, yeah. My throat's on fire from drainage. It's good times. It's every September. Okay, 11:2. It was that Mary which anointed the Lord with ointment and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was sick. So this description is describing what she did before she did it. Just so you know, because that kind of throws you off on the timeline. You're like, what? Because I thought Lazarus had already did the dying. So Lazarus is about to do the dying when they mention this in John. And why would they want to put Lazarus to death? Why would the chief priests want to plot? And it says that they wanted to plot him to death.
Because Jesus resurrected him.
Jesus resurrected him. So Lazarus is a terrible piece of evidence that they're going to have to try to get rid of. And so they're just like, yikes. And I'm getting ahead of myself because I get so excited about some of this stuff. Now, how many people would have been in the town is what I was wondering. Because they didn't want to cause an uproar. So I was thinking, so just, how many would have been in the town? So Josephus, the old historian, I use him for resource and research, but also tempered with some things that we know now in modern times. And this is one of them. Because he estimated to be about 2.7 million. But modern scholars are like, physically and logistically with water and sanitation and stuff, probably was not going to be able to handle 2.7 million people. So probably most scholars today think it was going to be the amount of people that would have been in Jerusalem at this time because of the Passover would have been in the tens of thousands, maybe a couple of 100,000 people would have been more likely. So that's still a big crowd you don't want to upset. And especially emotions are high, maybe because it's Passover. Passover is pretty important. If you don't remember, for online folk, or if you don't know, it's to remember what their ancestors went through to escape Egypt when they were going to flee Egypt. And, the plagues, and God had them get ready. And the firstborn was dying, and they said use the blood and paint over the doorpost, and then it'll pass over, and then the firstborn won't be killed. And they had to be ready to go, like be packed and like ready to go. And so it's a very important thing. They're still celebrating it. They still celebrate it. So as far as I know, but anyway, so this would have been, a time when people are either probably not crying or anything, but this is a reverent holiday, and so if they want to do something to a person that they love quite a bit, their emotions are probably going to run pretty high. Remember also, the chief priests did not have 100% liberty to do whatever they pleased. They could not put anybody to death without the Roman stamp of approval. So it's like probably in Caiaphas's, I want this guy dead, but I have to go to those idiot Romans and deal with them. So I'm sure it was very frustrating for him because they were really just, this was like a tinder box, kind of like just waiting for a match, you know, kind of like, because we're going to see when we get involved to Pilate, how Pilate truly, I'm not honoring Pilate. I think he probably did some horrible things as a Roman governor, but it wouldn't surprise me if I see him in heaven, because he was so put between a rock and a hard place. There's no win for him in this situation. Okay, so let's get back to, hi Teresa, let's get back to Mark 14. So, but notice in verse 2, the chief priests, what is their decision? What are they going to do? Wait. They're going to wait. Let's not do it. Remember that. They were wanting to wait. Are they in control of this timeline, though? No. This is Jesus's timeline. He and the Father are just like, nah, we're using you guys, but we're the ones in control here. So, now, I wondered, why is he Simon the leper, and why are they eating at his house? Obviously, this would mean that he's been healed, and I tried to see if there's any information about him, and I really couldn't find anything. So, obviously, he was a believer of the way, because they didn't use things like Christians, that word back then, okay? And then, and they probably wouldn't have used the way just yet, but it happened later. But anyway, he was obviously healed. Now, Bethany is about 2 miles from the Mount of Olives, which is where they were in 13. So they were not too far away. And yes, they're at Mary, Martha, and Lazarus's house. And she is anointing him. So, again, how people like to say Jesus is misogynistic. Remember, he chose to, after being resurrected, he chose to reveal himself to women first. And if you notice, women are getting it before the men are in this work. Now, this is not I'm not trying to the men. I'm just saying, look at the women. She's anointing him. She's getting it about what's going to happen. And mind you, he's already said several times now, hasn't he? I'm going to die. I'm going to die. I'm not going to be with you anymore. And they're just la, 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 la. So, I mean, you know, I don't know if they thought he was talking allegorically. I don't know. But they weren't getting it. Mary did. Mary did. She came and anointed his body, preparing it for burial. How do I know that? Jesus says it in verse 8. Okay, there's no figurative speaking here. This is he's just speaking it, right? And so it's just really some. Now let's talk about those that had indignation about her wasting this very expensive spikenard stuff, which you can still get today, by the way. So who was it? It was Judas. It was Judas. Okay. John just tells you. John doesn't, he's like, yeah, it's Judas. He doesn't want to be, he just flat out says it. It was Judas. But there's so much to it. So let's turn to John 12, verse 4. John 12, 4. Then saith one of his disciples, Judas Iscariot. So he's just telling it like it is. What do we call it? He docks him. Yeah. So he just, is Judas. And he says, why not was this ointment sold for 300 pence and given to the poor? And then he said, not that he cared for the poor, but because he was a thief. He's been dipping his hand in the money bag of the disciples, okay? And it says that. He didn't say it like that. But was a thief and had the bag and bare what was put therein. And then, but Jesus is like, yeah, you're not fooling me. You're not fooling me there, buddy. So he's like, you can see Judas's heart is not, he's faking this stuff. He's faking being this disciple, you know. He's not like, I don't know, it's just, he knows he's not asking the questions like, who's going to be the greatest and whatever. He's just like, And one time he pipes up, hey, how come we didn't sell that and make some money off of it? Yeah, so, okay, it kind of tells us that, yeah. Now, Judas is an interesting topic in this. You know, Jesus, of course, knows all the time, right? He inhabits the eternity. So he's in yesterday, today, and tomorrow, all at the same time. Now, for our little brains, we're like, but we don't have to worry about it. It works for him. So it's not that he designated Judas to be this evil one. He already knew the future, and he knew that this is what Judas would choose. Excuse me. Now, if you that inhabit eternity verse is in Isaiah 57:15. You don't have to turn there. I just want to give it out in case if anybody wants that. Now, did God make Judas? No, God did not make Judas choose this. And Jesus knew his heart, because where was that? Let me look at my, oh yeah, turn to John 6. John chapter 6. So this is sometime beforehand, before all this is going on. John 6:70, verse 70 through 71. And it says, Jesus answered them, have not I chosen you 12, and one of you is a devil? Oh, he knew it. Oh, he didn't even, he's just calling it like it is. He's not gentle parenting at all. He's just like, yeah, one of you is a devil. And he spake of Judas Iscariot, the son of Simon, for it was that should betray him, being one of the 12. So he wasn't fooling Jesus at all. In fact, later, Jesus speeds up the timeline, right? He's controlling the timeline, because look at John chapter 13, verse 27. And after the sop, Satan entered into Judas. So Judas Iscariot was possessed by Satan himself. Okay? Then after the sop, Satan entered into him. Then said Jesus unto him, that thou doest, do it quickly. So he's looking at him in the eye and saying, go do what you're going to do. I'm sure there's like, to Judas. So Jesus is controlling this timeline. Remember, the chief priest said, no, let's wait. Don't want to make a ruckus. We do not want to have bad press. And Jesus said, no, I need this done, because I need to be sacrificed as the lamb on a certain day. We'll get to that later. But so he tells Judas, yeah, go do what you need to do. Fish or cut bait. He still had a choice. Judas could have still said no, but he didn't. So that's just, put that there. Okay, so let's go back to Mark 14. I'm getting so excited about all this stuff, so I need to make sure, give me 1 second, make sure I haven't just like zipped over like half the stuff I was supposed to, though. Yeah, we know that. So back to verses 6 through 9 in chapter 14. It's so sweet that Judas is thinking about how she could have sold that. They could have sold that and gotten money. She could have sold that, and that way she and her family could have had some money. But she wanted, it's like the widow's sacrificial giving. She wanted to make sure Jesus had the anointing that he needed to have. Because, now I don't think Mary knew this. I really don't. But we're going to see they rush things so much with the arrest and the trial and everything. Now, again, they think they're doing it. It's Jesus's control. But there's going to be like very little time to do all the things they need to do. So it's kind of just really just so fascinating to me, because I've always thought about how when we think about the Easter story, which is what this is, right? We think about, the Romans were the ones who put Jesus to death. Now, a historian might say, well, actually it was the scribes and the Pharisees, because they didn't have the authority to put someone to death, so they had to use the Romans to get that done. But then those of us who are reading the Bible, being spiritual, and go, it's actually none of that. That Jesus was in control of all of this. And the evil desires of the chief priests and the Pharisees, and the lack of God in the government of the Romans, allowed it to be used, themselves to be used for what God needed to have done. So it's I used to say this, I know people, it's semantics or whatever, but I do it for me because I need it for my brain. Like, I used to think about how Air Force moved us here. Actually this month, 23 years ago. Wow. Bam. Anyway, was it 23? No, 22. So sorry. Anyway, I used to think about Air Force moved us, and I realized later, no, God used the Air Force to move us here. And yeah, that's like a little thing. You might say it's not a big deal, but for me it is, for my brain to give the right recognition to Jesus and to God and what they're doing in my life. So I may make those statements like that. So God's using these people to do his will. They just don't know it. God uses unsaved all the time. And so sometimes for good, sometimes for bad. This is as evil and horrible as it is, and it's brutal, but it's good. We had to have this happen, or we would be sitting here with no way to ever bridge that gap to God, But so we've been raised in the church. It's so many years ago that this happened. We get like this sanitized, almost non-emotional viewpoint of all of this stuff. Now, I'm not sitting, I don't think we all need to sit here blubbering head and toe, but if you feel led to, go ahead. But I'm just saying, sometimes we just have this really neat and packaged and sanitized version of all these things, and we're going to see in the Garden of Gethsemane, it was horrible. Jesus did not want to do this. He wasn't like, skippity-doo-dah, let's go. He knew he had to, or we'd be lost forever. But the human side of him absolutely was dreading this. And we seem to think, well, he was God, he can handle it. There was still the humanness of him. So he felt all the pain. And we're forgetting that, I think, sometimes. Maybe I shouldn't say we. I forget that sometimes, because I've been raised in the church. I've been raised in the Bible. Haven't always acted like it. Anyway, but I tend to maybe just kind of, like I said, we have to show sanitized versions of it because it's too brutal. Here in our church, when we have our plays, there's no way we could do a crucifixion scene because of modesty issues. We have young children in the audience. We have no way to do those special effects. Yeah. So just different things, right? All right, I'm sorry. I know I'm going on and on, but this chapter was just really, it was just good for me to study. It was good for me. Okay, so let's move forward to the Passover. So we're in verses 12 through about 26. I need another sip. Hold on. Oh, that's nice and cold and gross. Okay. And the first day of unleavened bread, when they killed the Passover, his disciples said unto him, Where wilt thou that we go and prepare that thou mayest eat the Passover? Because, this is not something like you can, go to a drive-through. They didn't have drive-through. But, this was you didn't just make a meal. There's a very specific things that had to be included in the meal. And some of y'all were at the Seder that our church did some years ago, and you saw all the very significant meanings and things of that. Verse 13. And he sendeth forth 2 of his disciples, and saith unto them, Go ye into the city, and there shall meet you a man bearing a pitcher of water. Follow him. And wheresoever he shall go in, say ye to the goodman of the house, The master saith, Where is the guest chamber, where I shall eat the Passover with my disciples? And he will show you a large upper room, furnished and prepared. There make ready for us. And his disciples went forth, and came into the city, and found as he had said unto them, and they made ready the Passover. And in the evening he cometh with 12. And as they sat and did eat, Jesus said, Verily I say unto you, one of you which eateth with me shall betray me. I'm sure that was like, wait a minute, we're just about to have this super symbolic and reverent meal, and you're going to say this to us, right? Now, this is where he is prophesying something that will be fulfilled. And we're going to look in a little bit. This is something that has been patterned in the Old Testament. Where did it say? Oh, yeah. 19. And they began to be sorrowful, and to say unto him one by one, Is it I? And another said, Is it I? And he answered and said unto them, It is one of the 12 that dippeth with me in the dish. Now that's where I would have been like, that does not help me at all. Because we're all here and we're all dipping our hand in the dish. Then the Son of Man indeed goeth, as it is written of him. But woe to that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. Good were it for that man if he had never been born. That's pretty harsh saying. So, let's keep going. And as they did eat, Jesus took bread and blessed and brake it and gave to them and said, Take, eat, this is my body. And he took the cup, and when he had given thanks, he gave it to them, and they all drank of it. And he said unto them, This is my blood for the New Testament, which is shed for many. Verily I say unto you, I will drink no more of the fruit of the vine until that day that I drink it new in the kingdom of God. And when they had sung a hymn, they went out into the Mount of Olives. Transubstantiation, we've already gone over this topic several times in the past on different things. He is not literally saying this is his blood, this is his body. This is figurative speech in the Bible. How do I know that? Because it doesn't make sense. He would have had to literally, okay, it's gross. I don't even talk about it. Okay, it's gross. So it doesn't make sense because he would not have been able to, he would have been able to, right? Because God can do anything. But it does not describe him removing flesh, removing blood from himself. Okay?
Can I add something?
Yes.
In the Jewish culture, they weren't allowed to eat blood.
Exactly.
So Jesus isn't going to tell the Jews, drink my blood.
Right, because very good point. Let's put bonus points for Jessica.
Another story.
Bonus points for Jessica. Okay, so this is very true. They had very strict laws about their dietary, and one of them, and I still kind of hold to that myself, even though God has given us permission. You know, he gave permission in the New Testament, no food is unclean. I personally do not want to eat meat that is so rare that it has, no, that's gross. So, and some of us are not going to eat meat at all. and we're not doing it for religious purposes. It's health only. It's very okay to be a vegan, a vegetarian, or any of that if you're doing it for dietary reasons, for health reasons. If you're doing it as a doctrine, then that's not good. Okay? But I know I prefer not to just eat a ton of meat because I feel very heavy and bloated and stuff like that. Now, as a Texan, we're really not supposed to say that out loud. And yes, you could probably abduct me and get me to get into a van if you had brisket, okay? But still, anyway. So very good point, Jessica. Yeah, he would not be encouraging them to do that. And so I don't think anyone around that table went, what? They knew he was talking figuratively. I don't think they knew exactly what he meant, though. They're going to find out. Excuse me. I've got the hiccups. Okay. Now, I need to go to my notes from Bible Institute from last year. Because there's some things I wanted to make sure you knew about. Now, they were the Passover meal. Now, remember the Jewish calendar? We had that little... I should have brought it. We had that diagram of the Jewish calendar and where it falls upon our months, okay? So Nisan, not the car, Nisan 14 would have been the day that that Passover lambs were killed, okay? So this is obviously not this is before they're getting things ready, and probably the guy whose house they were at was most likely a follower of Jesus. There are some speculations. I personally don't have scriptures to back them up, but some of the speculations are that the man, excuse me, that he was probably John Mark's father who wrote this book, Mark. Okay, remember John Mark is Mark. They think it may have been his father. And some people think it may have been Joseph of Arimathea. I don't think we'll ever know. But either way, this person offered the use of their home. And it must have been fairly wealthy because it's kind of a big room. And they got all this. They have servants to take care of things. So it's pretty nice. So they're actually in a house. They're not in a tent. Remember, the city would have been filled with pilgrims coming for the Passover. So there's probably lots of camping sites and tent cities, like we call them, But these guys are not in that. They're in a home. So God used a follower to provide this. Now, the room would have needed to be very clean. They would have had to do some sweeping and cleansing and arranging and all that other stuff. Is that someone's car alarm outside? Ah, that's funny. Okay. I hope their battery doesn't die. Okay, so one thing I was going to say is... okay, so we know that the Passover meals would have had the unleavened bread, fruit of the vine, and bitter herbs. But what's focused here is the bread and the wine, because Jesus is making it about he is the Passover lamb this time. Remember, long time ago, in Genesis 25? Can't remember for sure, where Abraham was going to go and sacrifice Isaac, and then later they say God himself will provide a lamb. That's now happening right now. So what was said very long time ago is now coming to fruition. Now remember, prophecy in the Hebrew culture didn't always mean I'm going to say that this will happen and then this is going to happen. It also, that was more the way the Greeks looked at things. Okay, kind of like fortune telling almost. But the Hebrews would have seen things in patterns. And so like God requiring Abraham to sacrifice Isaac, we see that as a pattern of what God is doing with Jesus right here. And there are some scholars that believe that was on the same mountain. The mountain where Abraham sacrificed was this going to be the same mountain where Jesus will be crucified. Now,
it is, because that was Mount Moriah.
They have different names, yeah, but
Is this the same one?
some people think, I'm not real sure. I don't know. That's not something I've delved into, because for me, it's like, it's a neat deal, but it's not a big deal to me.
Golgotha, it could have turned into a stone with the passing of time, looked like a skull, but
Something, I don't know. And but we do know that it was a pattern. The one thing I didn't ever know was, you know how Jesus is eating with someone who's going to betray him? That was patterned in the Old Testament, and I never knew that. So this is a new thing for me. This is a new, I don't know whose car that is. There we go.
Is it Psalms? Is it when David's talking about it?
It's when David's time. So, let's go to Psalm 41. And I probably won't present this smoothly because I'm still learning it myself, okay? Psalm 41, verse 9 is, yea, my own familiar friend, in whom I trusted, which did eat of my bread, hath lifted up his heel against me. Now, Jesus is different because he knew he can see right through Judas. So it's not like, it's a betrayal, but it's not coming out of nowhere for Jesus. Now, also in Psalm 55, starting in verse 12, for it was not an enemy that reproached me, then I could have borne it. Neither was it he that hated me that did magnify himself against me. Then I would have hid myself from him. But it was thou, a man mine equal, my guide and mine acquaintance. We took sweet counsel together and walked into the house of God in company. So this is David. He's been betrayed. You know, his Absalom revolted. You know, there's messed up family life in David's time because of his sins, the consequences of his sin. But Absalom had a revolt. And there is a man named, I gotta make sure I say it right, Ahithophel. 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 He was like a counselor, right? But he left David to join Absalom. So this is David lamenting about this. This is so hurtful to him. You know? He's just like, he even sends someone back to try to counteract the counsel. I mean, he's just heartbroken. Let's turn to 2 Samuel to find out a little bit about why is this going on. You know, so 2 Samuel. That's not how you say it, but you know what I'm saying. Yes, good. 2 Samuel 11, chapter 11. Again, still new topic for me. I'm still digging into it. So I may be making some mistakes here. My apologies. 2 Samuel 15. My pages are all stucky together. My Bible got a little wet a while back. Okay, so 2 Samuel 15 and verse 30. Nope. That's a lie. 2 Samuel 11. I'm sorry, guys. I knew I should have highlighted it. My eyes were going to go to the wrong one. So this is talking about what David did. Verse 11:3. And David sent and inquired after the woman, and one said, is this not Bathsheba, the daughter of Elam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite? And okay, hold on, give me a second. I'm still. So that is. So her. Okay, I think I'm right. Bathsheba's family line is traced back to. Okay. Remember I said she's the daughter of Eliam or Elam, E-L-I-A-M. So if you look in 2 Samuel chapter 23, verse 34, they're doing a genealogy. And it says, Eliphalet, the son of Abishai. You know I'm going to mess these up. The son of Makathite. Eliam, the son of Ahithophel, and Gileonite. that guy abandoned David because he was Bathsheba's grandfather. He didn't like how Bathsheba had been done. I'm sure there was still some about that. So I never knew that connection, ever. So I don't think I ever really studied much about Ahithophel. Okay, that might be something to investigate a little bit later. But I wish I knew. I love seeing connections, but we just don't have the time. Anyway, so one scholar says that David, so it looks like Ahithophel also met the same ending as Judas. I'm not sure. So 2 Samuel 17. What is it? So, so that part I haven't read enough about, so I'm not going to go further on that one. But so that's kind of patterning how David was betrayed by an acquaintance. And he even said, if it had been an enemy, I could deal with that, right? It's when the people who are close to us hurt us that it's like, man, And so, and then now this is being done by Jesus, except that Jesus is being done to Jesus. Jesus was never blindsided by Judas, like David was by Ahithophel. Because, like I said, Jesus knows everything. He said, back in Mark 14, he said, this is the New Testament blood. This is the New Testament blood, which is shed for what? For many. For many. So how many is many? Well, it's for everyone. But not everybody's going to take him up on this offer to be their Passover lamb. So there's some people who are like, don't see the need. Some people don't want to be accountable. But some people just don't want to be sorry for their sins. They don't really view them as sins, So, and a Passover meal always traditionally ended with what we call the Hallel, Hallel. We learned this in Bible Institute last year. And that is, they would sing Psalms 116, 117, 118. Now remember, back when they were doing this, the Psalms were not divided up in little chapters, right? So they would sing this. And Psalm 118 is all about Thanksgiving, and it's so neat. That's so, because as dark as this is, and we need it to happen, it's something I need to remember to be super thankful for, that Jesus did this for me. Because where would I be right now? I would be lost. There's no way I could make it to heaven on my own. Okay, so real quickly, well, it's 7:54. I think they're still preaching. But I feel like if I go into the next section, it's going to rush it too much. So we're going to stop here for today. So we stopped, for online folk, we are in Mark chapter 14, and we did verses 1 through 26 today, and then next week, yeah, this is September. Okay, next week, we will start up in 27. All right, online folk, I'm going, if you're interested in being connected with us in a group chat so you can share your insights, your questions, your prayer requests, your praises, let me know and we'll have it available. But for right now, we're going to sign off. Thank you guys.